What a wonderful.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Real. I first have to do some housekeeping notes that I've been having technical issues on this podcast and I feel so bad. It keeps me up at night. Last episode, I had the same issue that I had like a few weeks ago, or like even like a month ago now it is, where basically the memory card cleared. And I thought that the issue wasn't like the memory card. I thought it was like just a fluke. Now we know it was a defective memory card because last episode when I go to plug in the memory card into my computer, nothing is there. The whole recording's gone. And so yeah, I had a defective memory card. If any of you are in the tech space and this has ever happened to anyone, let me know. It is the most frustrating, debilitating situation. It made me want to scream and cry and throw up. And I was also at a fashion week event while all this was happening. And I was like, oh my God, I can't let down the girlies. I felt like every time I feel like the audio is bad, I feel like I let everyone down. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm careless or like that I don't like put work into this and effort and whatever. I just had to like make a formal apology that if the audio wasn't the same that it usually is in the last episode, I'm so sorry. I'm really excited about today's episode because it's kind of a topic that I've covered like in bits, but like I've never really talked about it to like a full extent of an episode. We're going to talk about how to stop caring what other people think. Now, obviously, I care what other people think, as you can see from the speech I just made about, me having a fluke on the podcast. It's normal to feel that way, but I want to talk a little bit about my journey of being self-conscious, dealing with social anxiety, dealing with trying to be friends with people that maybe didn't have my best interests at heart, and me being really self-conscious around them, to kind of coming into my own more when I moved to the city, living in my 20s, learning to not care what others think, and also learning to know that it's okay that people are going to disagree with you and it's okay to stand your ground. So that is going to be the topic of today. I've done like kind of episodes where I've asked people to send in questions for this. I feel like this is such a broad topic that I really wanted to break it down in my own kind of way. I first want to start with my journey and kind of how I was brought up. Now, I feel like it really, really depends like on your parents and how you were raised. Because if you were raised in a household where your parents really hyped you up, told you could do anything, built you up, and kind of like always gave you that reinforcement, I feel like those people tend to be more confident adults. They're more fearless kids and they're more confident adults. Sadly, this isn't the case in most households. And this is my opinion, and this is just a thought that I had. Like a lot of the time I come on here and I kind of just I think that like I just think and it's stream of consciousness and I'm just talking to you guys. And so it's not like something that I've been like sitting here like, this is definitely why, but it's just something that I've been thinking like maybe that's a reason why. Because obviously how you're raised and I feel like your childhood and those like formative years directly affect your kind of like trauma and like the way you carry yourself and the personality that you have in your adulthood. I grew up in a household where, first of all, I was a competitive gymnast. So I was constantly used to being judged on my performance and showing that like the harder I work, the better result I'm going to get. I feel like it just makes you be more hard-headed. And so I feel like I was raised not only being hard-headed and like strong-minded, but also kind of being a people pleaser. So it was weird because I had kind of like a bit of both. But my parents were always the people that supported me no matter what. Like I say I want to be a freaking Disney Channel star or like a famous singer, and they're like, sure, like go for it. My mom would like laugh at me, but my dad would be like, you can do it, like okay, like go for it. But it was more like prove yourself. Like if you put in the work, if you show it like that you are interested in this and that you're passionate about, like the sky is the limit. And sorry for ranting, but I just think that foundation for me is the reason why I was able to go into other areas of my life and feel like I can do this and it doesn't matter what other people think or say, because if I put in the work and I show up consistently and I prove myself, then it doesn't matter what other people think because I did it. So I think a lot of my foundation is built upon work hard, get the end result, show everyone. Don't think, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And then try to do it. It was very much, you want something, you go after it, and then you show afterwards. So moving out of, like, if you've heard my story about tearing my ACL and like just going through that injury and dealing with body image issues and whatever, I obviously started my website out of this feeling of like, I'm lost and I want something to like put my heart and soul into. And I basically would treat myself and my platform, in quotes, my Instagram and like my website, as if I was like a famous influencer, when in reality I was literally showing it to like family members and maybe close friends if I like forced them to read it. So it was this weird thing where I'd like come into school in the beginning and like everyone would make fun of me. But even before that, I remember, I don't know, like I feel like it was even before that, like as long as I can remember, I dealt with a little bit of, not like actual bullying, but like a little bit of like, people weren't always the easiest on me. I was always short. I always got like made fun of for being short. And I'm not saying woe is me. I'm not saying this at all. I'm not saying feel bad for me at all. I'm just trying to unpack why I was brought up confident and how I was able to come into my confidence more. I was always called shrimpy when I was little because I was always short. I was always the shortest in my class. When I came to school, my like high school and my middle school was very cookie cutter. Everyone kind of dressed the same. And I would come in with these crazy like leather boots on and like crazy, I don't know, like crazy Juicy Couture outfits that I found in the outlets and like had to show up in. Like I guess I was an attention whore basically. But no, I always like wanted to be outside the box and I wasn't afraid to stand out. And I think because I had that reinforcement from my parents, and them telling me, you're the shit. Whatever you do is the cool thing to do. Like, don't follow other people. Be a leader. That was the foundation I was built upon. And so even if people bullied me in school, even if people judged me, I was like, I'll be the one to prove people wrong. And so when people ask me, how do you not care what people think? How do you just have this confidence about you? I think I owe that to my parents and the way I was brought up. Going into my adult life, though, it still doesn't mean I never cared what people thought. And I also always had a lot of pressure on me. There's obviously a lot of mental health issues in my family, and I felt like I was always the person that kind of was overlooked. I always kind of had to like keep to myself when it came to my mental health issues. And so I feel like when it came to my confidence and the way that I would speak out, like those were things that I would shy away from. I didn't want to upset anyone. I didn't want to make the attention on me when it came to my problems. And so again, there's this weird double-edged sword of I didn't care what people thought, but at the same time, when it came to my family and close people, I always wanted them to think I was doing well. So I was never perfect. And I always had that kind of sense of like, it's all good. I never want anyone to worry about me. So I kind of had that in me still. Growing up, going into high school, I was a typical girl. Like I definitely wanted to be in the cool crowd. I wanted people to like me, but I was very shy. I had a lot of social anxiety. I would literally question every interaction I ever had with a person. I felt like I was awkward. I was afraid to talk to boys. And I presented myself as normal, but internally I was really battling with the fact that I'm this awkward, shy person because that's how I felt on the inside. Even though I could talk and I can converse with people, the way I felt about myself was not that. It was that I'm an awkward little loser because that's how I was. Like I went to camp, I was in the weird bunk. Everyone thought we were weird. And I don't know, like just growing up, I always felt like the weird kid. Even though looking at me, you're like, what are you talking about? Like you were always cool. Like you were always, but I internally never felt that way. And so I think it took a lot of also surrounding myself with the right people that made me feel like I belonged, because clearly when I was associating myself with a certain crowd, they made me revert to like, I'm the weird kid again. And I think that was the first sign to me of like, it matters who you surround yourself with. And certain people are going to make you feel certain ways. And so even though I couldn't really like wrap my head around that concept at that time, it's something that I definitely looked back on as I grew up. When I went to college, it was kind of the same thing. I got to college, I got to my dorm, and I wanted to be friends with the cool people. I wanted to be in the cool group. I always wanted to be invited to the big pregame at Indiana. It was like in Briscoe. Like I lived in Briscoe, which was like one of the dorms, and like you had to be invited to this one pregame with all the cool girls, and then they would all go out together and they were friends with the boys. And I don't know, I just always had this sense of like, I don't belong here. Like I'm not good enough for these people, or I don't know what to say around them. And like, again, that should have been a sign to me that like those weren't my people. Like all I wanted to do was fit in. And especially when you're in that vulnerable position of like just getting to school and trying to make friends, you're like doing everything you can do. But I just remember that feeling of discomfort. And I went through that all of college of just battling with like certain girls were my real friends that I could really like have deep conversations with and get along with and be myself with. But other times I felt like I was put into a room and there would be all these people in the room at this pregame. They were all singing the same songs. They were all from the same like area, or all like just had the same vibe, dressed the same, literally like clones of each other, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's all they knew. But I felt like I do not belong here. And like I feel like they all think I'm weird and they're making fun of me and they like look down on me. Like I felt like a lot of the way that I was treated was like in a condescending way. And so, yes, I was raised to be confident. I was always like strong in my beliefs, and I always had my blog and I always had my passions, and I was never going to stop doing that. But that doesn't mean that when I went into those social situations, I didn't feel uncomfortable. Like I still felt very uncomfortable in those situations. If there was one thing I learned, I had a very hard time my senior year of college. I was very depressed. I've talked about this before pretty in depth in different episodes, but I was very depressed. I was struggling with overcoming my disordered eating. I would lock myself in my room literally all day because I really wasn't getting along with like all of our roommates, kind of like this friend group split. So everyone was like in different friend groups at that time, and I was just lost. I did not know what to do, and I felt like nobody understood me or got me. And if you're going through that, like I feel you and I understand you because I've been there, and it's the shittiest feeling. You're like, when is this going to be over? When is this going to be over? It ends, I promise. But it wasn't until kind of after college, towards the end of college, but then after college, where I realized who you surround yourself with is everything and will, like, it's everything. It will bleed into every part of your life. The way you perform at work, the way you express yourself, the way you date. Like, if you have a supportive group of friends around you, if you have a good, healthy support system, it will literally lift up every part of your life and enrich every part of your life. And so at that end time of college, I remember I had my abroad friends who were true friends. Those were people that were true friends from the beginning. Like as soon as I went abroad, I literally went abroad to Florence with random roommates, basically. I said, I don't want to room with anyone that went to Indiana because clearly I was just not having the best experience with people. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask a friend. And that's not to say like, no one else knew I was struggling with this. From the outside, it looked like I had a bunch of friends. From the inside, though, I was feeling very lonely and like nobody understood me. I asked my friends, like, do you guys have anyone going abroad to Florence? And they did. And I basically connected with 2 different girls, and we all decided to be 6 roommates in Florence. And that was the first time in a long time that I made new friends, that I really felt like I could be myself around these people, and I'm silly, and I could tell them anything from the day one. And those are still my people today. Like I was one of their bridesmaids. They're all still, like a lot of them are still literally my best friends. So I feel so lucky to have that bond. But anyways, senior year, one of them came to visit me at school. And previously, my best friends, Amanda and Erica, my best friend Erica came to visit me and could see red flags in people that I was hanging out with. So imagine then, she knows that now my abroad friend comes to visit me senior year and sees the behavior of the people around me and sees the way I act and that I'm not being my truest best self. And she's like, Carly, these are not your people. And like these people don't treat you the way that you treat them. And like you're such a good friend and you're such a light, and like they're not helping you shine. And that was such a big thing for me. Like I felt like when I was there, people were dulling my light. People were making me feel smaller. And you always want friends. You want to be surrounded by people that let you be your whole self and that let you shine when you want to shine. So I will never forget when my broad friend said that, and I just kind of took it into consideration. But I knew, but there was nothing I could do because it was like senior year of college and it was like coming to an end, and there was really nothing I could do at that point except for like chalk it up and like wait for school to be over. So I go home, like I'm back from college is over, and that's when I really felt so grateful for Amanda and Erica and my best friend Allie, who's also from my town, and just the people that were my roots. And all these years I complained about my town, and I complained because everyone like wants what they can't have. And Amanda and Erica were always my people, but it's just outside of them. There wasn't like a lot of people that we felt like we connected with in our town. Partially just because the Jewish population wasn't huge, and we kind of dealt with a lot of like kind of anti-Semitic stuff in high school. And that's a story for another time, but we just like were always called the Jew crew. I was always called a Jap. I was always being called out for being like a Jew. And so that's a whole nother story, but it really made me feel so grateful for Amanda and Erica because they know me. They've known me for so long and they know me at my core. And I was like talking to my therapist about it, and I said, what do they have that like all these other people don't have? And she's like, the same values, the same foundation. And that's when I realized, and again, when I first moved to the city, I felt very lost. But even before I moved to the city, I just felt lost. I was like, now I need to start over. Like now I need to like find new people that like fill my cup and like make me feel like I can shine. And she said, you need to find like-minded people to you. And that's when you will be able to be yourself and shine. And, you know, you're not going to care what they think because they're going to be your true friends no matter what. And that was such a huge thing in college, me just constantly worrying and caring what everyone thought of me, when in reality, just wasn't the right people. Those were not the people for me. And they all were so consumed what everyone else was thinking too. They were all most worried about what everyone else is doing, what everyone else is thinking, what everyone else is wearing. So when I got out of college, my priority became like, let me find people that just have the same values as me, have the same interests as me. And kind of happened by accident. I mean, I met my friend Rachel through like a date. Like I was on a date and she was like, whatever. That's a long story. If you know the story, if you know about how I met my friend Rachel. I met my friend Rob through a mutual camp friend. Like I just think things fall into place, but I connected with them because I was already surrounding myself with other people that had similar values and were kind people. And that's not to say that I didn't occasionally get caught up, because the New York City scene, like there will always be people that don't have your best interests at heart. That happens in any big city. That can happen anywhere, by the way. But it just gave me more, I was able to be more conscious of what to look out for. And also, thank you to Amanda and Erica, who the second they notice a red flag with a person, they call it out and they know. And so long story short, I'm talking all about how all these different people came into my life and how I'm surrounded by all these different people. The reason that I put such an emphasis on this is because you will never be able to be comfortable with yourself unless you are comfortable with the other people around you. Because as long as you have people that are like your true supporters, you are going to feel confident to be able to go into the world and do what you want to do. Not everyone is so lucky to have a foundation where their parents and their family supports them. And so that's why it is so important that as you grow up, you find a chosen family that is going to support you, that is going to ride for you, that is going to always tell you that you got this, even when you feel like you don't got this. So that is my number one thing. I think relationships and who you're surrounded by will truly make or break your self-confidence. I think another really big thing is that I have always been super independent. I've never been afraid to be alone. And I think that is a really powerful thing because you're not afraid to be alone with your own thoughts and you become more of an individual. And something about that just allows you to let go of the outside noise and not care as much what is going on around you. Because when you just have you and you're happy and okay with that, that's a beautiful thing. Everyone knows that friend that can never be alone and can never sit still and always has to be doing something else. And a lot of the time that comes from distraction and needing to distract themselves because they can't be alone with who they are and what is going on in their life. And me being able to always like sit in solitude, entertain myself, talk to myself, journal, just like do activities alone and like truly find happiness and fulfillment and joy in that, that has helped me so much with my confidence and feel more just like detached from the rest. Another big thing that I've had to work on in the last several years is this need for everyone to like me. This was probably and still is one of the hardest things to deal with, especially coming from someone that is a people pleaser, someone that has always wanted everyone to like me. Like I've always wanted to be like, I don't want enemies. I don't want beef with anyone. Like I've always just been taught that, especially from my mom. Like she's always been the person that's kind of just like on good terms with everyone. I've realized that you don't always have to be neutral. Sometimes there is power in choosing sides. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I never want to hurt anyone, but at the same time, sometimes you have to pick a side because then instead of hurting one person, you're hurting both, if that makes sense. I had this situation in college, my senior year, where my friend group split and I had to pick a side and I didn't want to pick a side. And both sides ended up getting resentful of me and of each other because I would have to split my time hanging out with the both of them. And some might say, well, that's really two-faced because there's no way they were all just being pleasantly talking great things about each other when the others weren't there. Like they were talking shit. And you know what? I was participating in it too. That's an issue. It happens. Like it happens to the best of us. But I think if you're going to be neutral, you really have to take the side of being neutral, which is really hard. Most of the time, people are not neutral. They say they're being neutral, but then they're talking shit to one side, talking shit to the other side. It's an issue. So as I got older, I kind of like had this feeling in the sense of you are not going to please everyone right now. And it's better to have a stance and have a side and maybe be disliked by some people, especially in this day and age. Let's say when it comes to politics, I am open about my political views. I am open. If you don't agree with them, that's okay. You don't have to. If you don't like me because of my views, that's okay. You don't have to. If you don't like me because of my content, because of something I say, the beautiful thing about life is there's so many people out there. If you want to block me, if you want to not look at me, get rid of me, you can. There's power in that. Like, I just think that when I let go of that feeling of like trying to please everyone, trying to get everyone to like me, I gained so much power back from that. And so I live with the awareness of some people I am going to get under their skin. Some people are not going to like me. That's okay. It's not about you. It's about them. It's about a personal thing that they have with you. So never take it personally. Sometimes, I heard this a long time ago, sometimes when someone doesn't like you, it's because you are triggering something within them that they don't feel safe or good or okay with. So when someone tries to pick a bunch of fights with me, or if they don't like me, I'm aware that I might not have done anything wrong. Yes, it makes me second guess myself for a second. But then I have to come back to myself, realize who I am, and say, oh, wait, this never was about me. I'm just living and being myself and trying to be the best version of myself. This was about an issue that I am bringing up within you. That is powerful to realize. Someone might not like you, but it doesn't even have to do with you. It has to do with them. Feel that release that I literally, like the second I even say it out loud, I feel relief from that because you are not taking on that stress. That person is taking that on. And if they need to get you out of their life in order to not feel that, so be it. Not everyone is meant to be in each other's lives. And I think going along with that, it's so important to like have empathy for others. So obviously, like this is two ways because someone treating you badly, like someone's mental health issues aren't an excuse to like treat you like shit. Like that's not an excuse. But I think it's also helped me to realize that when people are being mean to me or when people are really judging me about something that I'm doing, I have to realize like, oh, maybe they're struggling right now. Like when I come online and I see comments about me, or if someone doesn't like my outfit, or if a girl that I know says that something I did was weird, like that's in their brain. That's about them. So I need to be more compassionate and realize that they just are struggling with something. They might be like going through something that they feel like they need to pick apart something that I'm doing. So I think when you're putting yourself out there in the world, you have to realize it is going to be met with criticism. Like people are going to criticize you. People are not going to like what you have to say, but you have to have empathy and compassion and realize that everyone is going on their own journey. And it's not healthy for people to be rude. It's not healthy for people to talk shit. But the reality is people are going to do it because they're not happy with themselves or you just triggered them. And this is something that even I've had to deal with myself. Me being triggered by someone else, saying to myself, why exactly is that triggering me right now? Why am I talking bad about this person's this? Whatever it is, because we have all been guilty of it. What is making me do this? There's a lot of options, honestly. Sometimes I gossip because you're just filling the void, like you just have nothing else to talk about with a person. And unfortunately, sometimes people bond over talking shit about other people. Sometimes maybe I feel a little jealousy. I just think it's really important to be aware of like your own emotions too and how you feel. And we all have that sometimes. So I just always remember that like when someone else is judging me, I've probably done it to someone else at some point. Doesn't mean I would have said it out loud or like directly tried to, because I'm not like, you know, some people are going through some real shit where they're like cyberbullying. I'm not out here doing that, but I've definitely felt those internal emotions. And so I can have compassion for when people try to hate sometimes. But I'm secure with myself. So I know that it's not about me. I also think that I often compare myself to others a lot. And this is something that comes along with caring what people think. Because if I'm comparing myself to others, saying like, oh, this person just got this brand deal, this person just walked this red carpet, this person's so successful and I'm not, it's almost like, especially in the age of social media, what is everyone thinking of me when I post and I'm not doing the same cool things that these other people are doing? Something that has helped me gain control and also just soothe my emotions about it is like going to therapy and just like venting. Like sometimes you just feel some type of way and you have to let it out to someone. And so never be ashamed to like grab a friend, go to therapy, like schedule a session and be like, look, I'm really struggling because I feel like everyone is judging me about like me not being successful enough. Everyone's judging me because my body doesn't look the way that everyone else's look. And especially again in the age of social media where Instagram and TikTok, everyone's looking at everyone else and then posting and then thinking I'm not as good as everyone else and everyone must be judging me and thinking I don't look that good. Therapy and talking to people and being able to just vent about my feelings and feeling sorry for myself sometimes, being like, ugh, I don't look good, or like I don't feel good about like my career this week. It's so helpful to just like let it out. And I feel like when emotions and feelings build up in your mind, that's when things start to like it's almost like a time bomb where it like shakes and then it explodes everywhere. Instead, when you get those emotions, just like letting them out, it just takes the pressure off. Like you just feel lighter. And then you're able to regulate your emotions better because you got that out of your system. It's so hard to regulate your emotions when you're already boiled over to the top and then you feel crazy and then you're like, I'm not good enough and I'm having a mental breakdown. When you feel those emotions, call your mom, call a friend, call your dad, call an aunt, whatever it is, call your therapist, talk about it, let it out. Because once you let it out, then you're like, I actually was maybe acting a little bit irrational before, which is totally fine. We've all done that, especially around my period. I'm acting really irrational. I wake up the next day, I'm like, why the hell was I crying over that? That was not a big deal. But we've all been there because when we let so many emotions come in and nothing goes out, then you just feel crazy. So that is like the last really big tool, I feel like, for not caring what others think. You will not have the capacity to think straight in that way and think rationally when you have all of these built up, pent up feelings. So let it out to someone, vent to someone, go to therapy, talk about it. Because once you do, your emotions level, and then you can say, you know what? I actually don't care what they think of me because I'm good with myself. I'm working on myself every day, and I'm my harshest critic anyways. And I want to leave you with that. Whatever you are feeling today, know that no one else has thought about that because everyone else is so consumed with their own life and their own work and their own body and their own family. No one is thinking about what you are doing in the best way. And people probably think you're doing great too. People are probably looking at you like, oh my God, she's killing it. Because that's reality. You are your harshest critic. You are always going to hold yourself to the highest standard. And that is a good thing. That is a healthy thing. But you have to give yourself grace. So take that with you as you go along for the rest of this week, next week, and just throughout your life. I hope you guys enjoyed this little pep talk on not caring what others think. Let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes. But be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up. Follow us on Instagram at Real with CW and on TikTok at Real with Carly Weinstein. And I love you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
What a wonderful world.